Welcome. My name is Halcyon, and it is time for Hug Nation. Before we go deep, let's just get present. Let's just take a few moments to sink into the now. And become aware of the sensations in your body, the sounds you might hear, where your skin is touching clothes or other skin. And be aware that nothing is lacking in the now. There's simply stories of future, stories of past, and the experience of now. And as we grow disciplined in knowing the difference between a thought that we bring into our present moment by choice versus an experience, then we become the artists of our life. We become the artists of how we experience the world. And we can cling to those that bring us joy, roll around in our tongues and swirl around in our mouths, the taste, the memories, the visions of smiles of people in our past. We can create a bubble of warmth and joy in our now. But if we lose that discipline, then we become victims, passively receiving whatever worry or uncertain, probably never going to happen future of anxiety. And so we practice this occasionally, coming to the now, recognizing the perfection of this present moment. Thank you, universe, for all of the gifts. Help us to appreciate the miracles. Help us to appreciate the vantage point, witnessing consciously this amazing universe. Fill us with joy so we may spread joy in the world. Amen. Welcome! Oh my goodness, welcome! This is the first Hug Nation since I returned from Burning Man, my 16th year on the playa. And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of a dish, a belief buffet dish of the day about radical inclusion, and then share some stories from the week, and then kind of just freeform discuss. We can go to the chat room and share what people want to share and ask what we want to ask and recalibrate back to that place that many of us were in just a week ago. Or if you're not there physically, maybe you were in that aligned place wherever your adventurous life takes you. So I want to talk about radical inclusion. It is one of the 10 principles, and the reason why it's on my mind is because of a number of things that I kept hearing and posting about and seeing people say upon returning. And it's kind of a refrain that you hear all the time, every year. There's always, there's so many, tourists this year. There's so many, people who just came in their RVs and they don't get it and they're ruining it. I'm not going back. There's just too many people who don't get it and they're throwing moop everywhere. And you know what? Okay, if that's your experience and you want to put a period on the end of that sentence and start a new one, hey, feel free. But this gray area of new people transforming, becoming veterans, is part of the process. It's part that's built into the system. It's why we have radical inclusion. Something that happens is many people were transformed by this event. It becomes sacred to us. And then we become very defensive about it. And we become very attached to what we think is the right way to experience it. Not to draw too many parallels, but some other large institutions of belief also have this tendency to feel like their way is the right way, and any other path to their truth is the wrong way. So let's be careful about treading into the land of my answer is the right answer. The magical thing that happens in this place is that we are pushed outside of our comfort zones, outside of what's normal. Everything is new and different in terms of environment and stimulus. And so we get into this floaty place that is a magical place. And the reason why it's so important is because it gets us to maybe hear the song in our hearts. We are born with a song in our hearts. As a toddler, that's all we hear. On the playground, you play imaginary games and follow that song and dance to that song, and it's really just what life is all about. But well-meaning teachers and parents and less well-meaning institutions of marketing and politics and whatever start to change the direction of our pull from following a song to trying to hit a target, trying to succeed according to grades, according to status, according to rungs of a ladder, according to financial goals. And so it becomes so pervasive. We have all these shoulds start to pile on until suddenly there's so many layers on top of the song that we forget it's there at all. And we start to think that the way that we can get to happiness, to our joy and our bliss, is by following all these rules and shoulds and things that we've been given, right? That's what the rule book says. And then we get out to the playa and we realize, my rule book doesn't help me here. None of this works. I'm filthy. I can't even use my money. I can't even, So what do? You pay attention and you get present. And when you're very lucky, maybe it's amidst the drowning bass of an art car or in the quietness of the temple, you hear your heart song. And it's a magical thing. And that gift of realizing that maybe there is this direction, this purpose, this thing that you've been looking for, you've been told that if you follow these things you'll get there, it's already in you. And the way that you get it louder and the way you tune into it is by figuring out, hearing the things that bring you bliss, the things that light you up, and sharing those things. And as you share those things and other people appreciate it, you get this thing called bliss, called joy. And that is not a selfish thing. That is not you being a hedonist. That is a built-in dial into your system to direct you into your purpose. That is how you know you're in alignment. In the same way that if you hit a stove and you burn yourself, that is your body's way of telling you that's damaging. When you get your pleasure centers, that's your body's way of saying, this is the way to keep your biological genetics going. And when you're in bliss, it's like, this is the way to serve your purpose. This is the way to be of service in the way that the world needs you. Now, it's rarely as, crisp, like, oh, you must be a chef. But it's probably somewhere in the direction of service. And so that change, that shift to a realization in that way is so significant that that's when we get attached to the way that we think it should be done. And so sometimes we get down on the way that other people experience Burning Man, There's nothing in the 10 principles about the size of your tent or if you're allowed to have air conditioning or if you need to cook your own meals. Who's to say what self-reliance means? Like, do you need to go and mine the metal and cast the aluminum for your bicycle? Do you need to weld the joints? Do you need to put your bike rack on yourself? Do you need to decorate it yourself? Or do you just need to be self-reliant enough that you're taken care of and you're not a burden on anyone and that your needs are met so that you can get into that place of floating and listening and transformation? I hear people sometimes talk about, I didn't bring any water and I don't have this and this and this, but the playa will provide. I think that's a much more detrimental attitude than, I paid for this and I made arrangements for here, so I showed up and I'm self-reliant in this space. But that's probably another topic. Now, there's this, when you show up and things are taken care of you, there's a term for that, sometimes called a plug and play camp. People pay crazy amounts of dollars, crazy from my perspective of what my finances and what my income is now, but it's all relative. So, in the same way that I paid for some meals to be made in advance, it was within my budget and it made sense. It allowed me to free up energy and time to do other things. So I made that call. That was within my spectrum of acceptability. Now, a plug and play camp that costs this, that's out of my realm, but who am I to judge that? I understand why there's judgment about plug and play. But the danger is not that these people, I believe, will be a burden on the event. The danger is only that they won't get out of the event. The degree of magic that you get when you participate. In my camp, we put a really high importance on participation. Now, is it because our camp requires a lot of participation for it to run? We need a lot of labor, we need a lot of help? No, not really. It's because after years and years of doing this, of all the things I'm uncertain about, one thing I am absolutely certain about, and that is the more you give, the more you participate, the more you feel like you are helping make this happen, the more you will get out of it, and the more transformed you will be. If you show up for the greatest party of the year, you will have awesome experiences and awesome memories. But if you help co-host, if you help create, if you look out onto the playa and say, I helped, this is us, we did this, that is how things get transformed. And who's to say how much experience you have to have out there before it transforms you? My first year, I showed up on a Thursday, camp was built, I didn't really know what was going on, I didn't really know what my responsibilities were, I kind of tried to avoid the conversations where people were saying, can people do this? I tried to avoid, I took way more than I gave. When it came to breakdown, I'm ashamed to admit that I kind of did the bare minimum I had to while people were looking, and I let other people deal with this thing. I didn't see how it was put up. How do I know how it gets taken down? That was 16 years ago. And I'm so glad that I wasn't attacked for being a tourist, because I probably was. But just that experience of brushing shoulders with this magic, just that whooshing, absorbing of that gifting, even before I understand what was happening, just that energy into me changed the direction of my life. Not to the point that I am now, but enough so that I came back and I paid attention more and I gave more and I paid more attention. And I started to learn, I started to realize, and I started to apply these things to more and more of my life. Is there a way of participating that's better than another? Is the DPW better than the temple builders? Are the temple builders better than the art car creators? Or are they better than the theme camp creators? Or better than the chefs who are better? Or is it just that it's not about keeping track and keeping score? It's about giving and hoping, knowing that when you give from your heart and you share this magic, that it will light people up. And that experience of lighting other people up transforms what you're looking for in the world and how you define yourself in the world. So can you have that experience in a plug and play camp? Absolutely. the key is, whatever brushing with or deep experience you have, the key is getting enough outside the way you think you're supposed to be, all those shoulds, all those layers, that you start to have some minor experience of the joy you get when you're of service to your gifts. Maybe you give a massage, maybe you help cook, maybe you help move, maybe you help. It's always helping, it's always of service, it's always some way of giving. And that shift from how can I get stuff to make myself happier to what things can I do to be of service? How can I listen intently and be present? Are transformative. This year, there were some great stories about celebrities at the burn. Zuckerberg took a helicopter in, and P. Diddy was seen at Robot Heart. And some people are like, oh man, Burning Man's over. To which I say, are you crazy? When people who have resources are opened up to this magic, that has world-changing possibilities. P. Diddy, a man who has the money, the resources, the connections, the swagger to do anything in the world. He has ultimate possibilities. The traditional world is his oyster, of anyone's. And he, after experiencing the magic of this place, what did he say? He posted on Instagram, "Words cannot explain. I'll never be the same." I hope that every CEO gets to go to Burning Man. I hope that every prince, I don't care if they do plug and play, I don't care what experience they have to get there. I hope that they are radically included and brought in. I hope they all get served pancakes and they all find themselves in a place where they realize that the measuring stick that they've been given their whole lives, that they've freaking dominated, is not the only measuring stick. And then they can take these resources, take this energy, take these connections and go, this is not a silly idea. More and more, I am being asked in a consulting and a professional way to speak to corporate business people about the importance of being in integrity and being in purpose. I was recruited for my current job, the place I work right now, because the CEO and the founders, they said, you know what? We've seen the Burning Man videos that you've done. They resonate with us. We've spent our lives building an empire. We've been very successful. And now we realize that we want to build a legacy. They want to be in purpose. They want to be of service. And this alignment of resources and traditional capitalism and commerce all finding its way to one another is not the end of Burning Man. It is the birth of something new. Burning Man has built its empire in the dust. This is the way that a legacy on the planet is created. When each of us finds our gifts and are of service in the same way that each cell of an organism, it's not about doing what it's told, it's about figuring out what its role is and getting healthy and clear and doing it. And then each chef and each masseuse and each programmer and each accountant does that thing with integrity and clearly, and then the whole system is healthy. Every person that is finding themselves getting into alignment helps us all. That's how the magic out there works. And as that can bleed into the bigger the world, if it can bleed into commercials for Taco Bell or whatever, it can change the world. It is changing the world. And so our job is to be stewards of that magic, to keep realigning it with that integrity, to hold that integrity in ourselves so that we reflect it as this message, as these ideas, as this magic starts to become part of popular culture. You are a part of this magic. You are a part of the world that's changing, whether you like it or not. And so the more you can realign with that person you are when you're in the desert and you're feeling your highest self, and you feel that divine light in you shining, and you feel that love that you have for yourself and everyone else out there, and you feel that as you act in the moment, in the present, in that place, that magic happens, and the right things happen, and the right places happen, and you feel like, this is who I am. You're still that person. And you need to practice being that person. Because the more in alignment you get, the healthier the system gets. It's very important work. And you're doing a really good job. I love you. I'm so proud to walk the path with you. I love who you are and who you're becoming. And thank you for being you. Namaste.